Thank you for joining me on this educational video where I am going to talk about the ultimate guide for t-shirts to put your logo on. My name is Stacy Garrett. I am the VP of Marketing for Ideation Creative Brand Management, and I am here today because I know that we all love t-shirts. We have dozens of t-shirts. I might even have more than dozens, multiple dozens of t-shirts in my dresser. And sometimes it's hard to figure out what type of t-shirt you need in order to make sure that it is a t-shirt that your recipient's going to love and wear and be so excited to get, or the kind of t-shirt that is going to fit within your budget but be the best quality it can be with the right decoration on it. So today I invited our apparel industry expert, Lori Dollar from Sanmar. She's going to help us kind of demystify all of the things around t-shirts, weights, styles, fabrics, all the things that you hear your team at Ideation talk about. Oh, this is a combed cotton or a ring spun, or this, we need this to be a blend because of whatever. Like this, Lori is here to help that all make sense. But of course, you can always just talk to your favorite Ideation account manager and we will help you make sense of it all. But we thought this video would help. Thank you, Lori, for joining us and helping us understand all the ins and outs of t-shirts.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, who'd have thought t-shirt was so in depth, right? I feel like I could talk about t-shirts and fabrics for days. There's so much that goes into it. There's so many different reasons why you would choose the right t-shirt. But again, your account managers are going to help you through that process of selecting the right t-shirt for the design, for what the use is. If it's an event where you're going to be outside and you need something that's more lightweight versus something that's going to be inside where you don't, something that's a specific color that you need for an event, all those things matter. So the account manager will help you kind of go through all of that decision making process. So let's start off with just basic in general. I think the first question usually out of the gate ends up being like, what weight do you want your t-shirt to be, right? And for a lot of people, that is a confusing question. Like if you take your t-shirt and you pop it on a scale, is that how you determine t-shirt weight? No, it's not. T-shirts start off with a measurement of grams per square meter, or a GSM rating is what it's commonly known as. And then that is a little simple math equation that comes out to the ounces that t-shirts are generally marketed as. So just as a point of reference, a 200 GSM is a 5.9 ounce. The more GSM, the more ounces, the heavier weight, and the fewer, obviously, you get a lighter weight. It's interesting over time. I've been in the industry for nearly 30 years. And when I started in the industry, pretty much the general request was a heavyweight tee was a 6.1 ounce, and a Hanes beefy tee was your go-to, your t-shirt, right? Now, the perception of a 6.1 ounce over the course of the last decade or so was like super heavyweight, and no way was that fashion forward. And it was really these 4 ounce styles that were the fashion forward tees. So fashion isn't definitely not determined on what that weight is, because today, I think the high-end fashion perception is this crazy 7 ounce t-shirt that's coming out. That's this super heavyweight and it's slouchy. And of course, we've gone through having different styles that are fashion forward and tapered and so forth. So anyway, all right. So lightweight is that 3 to 4.5 ounce, really the 100 to 150 gram. The pros to that is that they're soft, they're comfortable, they're great for layering, they're cost effective. And of course, the negatives could be that they're more sheer, they're a little less durable, they're best for fashion forward brands, giveaways, warmer climates. Oftentimes, you want to jump into a mid weight because it's, especially if you're doing white, you want to kind of go up in weight because then it's going to be a little less see through, right? So a mid weight would be a 4.5 ounce to a 6 ounce. That's the 150 to kind of 200 gram. And I would say that that's kind of where, for the most part, that 4.5 ounce to 6 ounce is really the core of our decorated apparel sector, our industry. Of course, lighter weight options available, and then heavier weight are kind of coming on trend. We haven't had really a lot of heavier weight options than a 6.1 until recently.
Yeah, if I could interject a little bit
Yeah.
there, I know this still happens, but for years I would hear people when the trend was those lighter weights, the 4.3 ounces, that some people that were used to that older, heavier is the only way to go, they're like, oh, I don't want this cheap t-shirt. And I'd be like, oh, this isn't a cheap t-shirt. This t-shirt is more expensive than the 6.1 ounce. And there's a lot of things that go into why that is more expensive because of the way that it's actually made. It used to be that the thinner t-shirt was the cheaper option, and that's not the case anymore, right? I mean, some of the more fashion forward lighter weight ones, because of the technology that goes into weaving that fabric, they are considerably more expensive, and also in a lot of cases more luxurious feeling because of that technology. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree with that. And again, the anatomy of how a t-shirt is built, the fibers that are going into that shirt, and even how those fibers get treated all come down to reasons why the price increases on those lighter weight pieces. So, a couple of different blends, maybe I think that we could start off by talking about is well, I think there's a buzzword right now, CVC, that's going around. So, CVC means Chief Value Cotton. That just means that that shirt is made up of more than 50% cotton. And CVC, I think, has this maybe not true that it's going to be like the softest, but it is true that it could be softer than 100% because that means that it's a blend, right? So, I mean, it could have that blend in there and it could be blended with something other than a polyester. You could be putting in a rayon or a lyocell or a modal or the poly cotton blends, or it could even be a tri blend too that makes it a little bit softer. So, let's jump into combed versus ring spun because I think that is something that people often question. What's the difference and what's softer? So, comb simply means that the strands of yarn have gone through a combing process that removes all the little ends, the fines, they call them, when they're manufacturing shirts. Because shirts is made up, or when they're weaving that yarn, it's made up of singles. So, a single is actually a thread or one strand. And then those are made or extruded, or depending on what that process is, into the yarn. And so there's little pieces, little ends that find their way there. So combed gets rid of all those little ends. The combed cotton is going to give you a smoother print surface. And also when you wash it, those ends have a tendency to poke up and it makes it look like your print has faded, but really it's just cotton little ends that are popping up that make it not as sharp or crisp of a print. So combed is removing all of that. Ring spun is a process that yarn goes through where it's being stretched and elongated that makes yarn really strong. Okay, so there's a couple of difference. And quality is higher quality is combed and ring spun. So you have both
Right.
those things in there.
So then you have the stronger and smoother
Mhm.
all in the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Organic cotton is another thing that's trending right now. Organic can be different. There's recycled tees. There's organic teas down to the seed that it's certified organic. So you could have a higher perceived value there. But I think the other conversation piece there, like, I mean, it's really great. We're obviously really want to promote using the right promo product for the right cause. So if you were doing a seed planting event, why would you not want to do something that's sustainable or something that is organic for that kind of event? Um, Sapima, Pima cottons, those are going to have more of a luxurious hand feel. They're also very durable fabrics. And then let's talk a little bit about poly cotton blends. So I think that's the other one that we get a lot of requests for. It's a little bit more breathable oftentimes, where you have that blend, you have softness, you have a nice drape. There can be different ratios to that. There could be a 60-40 blend, which is kind of where that CVC buzzword comes in. You can have a 50-50. I want to give an example too of like 100% polyester in a safety or neon color versus a 50-50 is still a neon color, but you can't get those super bright colors without having a blend. So if I was showing you,
Or polyester without having more polyester in it,
yes,
right?
yes, yes. So you really need that poly to have that color fastness and for
I
also longevity and durability of that color too. Cotton.
I think that your example you just showed there is such a spot on example of why you need to pick a fabric depending on what it is. If you're really wanting bright to stay bright, you're gonna have to go with the most amount of poly possible.
Hmm.
And poly doesn't mean it's a terrible shirt. It is a lot of times you can do more technical things with a poly shirt. You can have it be moisture wicking. There's a lot of like UV protection that comes with a poly shirt, right?
Yeah, this guy right
Like
here who does have that UV protection on it as well. So yeah, so if you are out and you're on the water or on the ocean or you're snorkeling or just laying on the beach and you want to not get burnt, landscaping companies, something like this
yes.
is a great fit for something like that. Hmm.
Oh yeah, from a safety standpoint, we've talked about safety stuff. Well, safety sometimes isn't about visibility, it's about protecting the employee from whatever it is can be the harmful elements. And so having a t-shirt that has that kind of technical aspect to it with the UV could be really powerful. Anybody in construction out in the field, like your point of landscapers, so great. Even if they don't need to have any kind of safety rating, just that protection will help keep your employees from getting as much exposure to UV as possible. And that you have to have a blend in order to do that functionality, right? Or at least 100% poly.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
For the longest time, people were like, oh, I don't want a polyester shirt. No, that's going to be terrible. But that's not really the case anymore. Again, because we've both been in the industry a long time, polyester shirts were that it wasn't the thing you wanted. And now it allows so much more tech components and coolness and moisture wicking and like things that you can't get from a 100% cotton t-shirt. And the color fastness is so important.
Correct. And I don't have a sample here at this moment, but also that 100% polyester can come in somewhat of a mesh, not like an open hole mesh, like a basketball jersey, but a closed hole mesh. So it does just add more airflow and breathability to it. So you're getting lightweight, breathable air movement, but then you're getting those performance properties that you gain from polyester and being moisture wicking, sometimes odor fighting, the snag resistance, the UV protection,
Mhm.
kind of all of those things. And this is why it's so important to lean on your account coordinator to really figure out what the best piece is going to be for your project, because how they're using it, what the
Right.
main function is of it, And then the decoration that they're putting on it are all things that go into that. And it's not like we just have a couple pieces to choose from. We've got hundreds of different styles to choose from.
Right. So when someone comes to me with a need, I will ask the questions to try and figure out the audience and then send them the options I think are the best. It's okay to ask, how come you don't have any 100% cotton in here? Is this polyester going to be hot? It's okay to ask those questions. This is really intended to help you understand more on why you're getting what you're getting so that you can explain that too, or make decisions with more education around it when you're selecting t-shirts for your crews, for your employees, for your customers.
Mm-hmm.
Because you and I both, because we are in this world, we have a lot of t-shirts. I mean, there's some I buy at retail. I know it's so, I can't believe it, but I buy some at retail. We all know the one that we migrate towards in our arsenal of t-shirts because it's so comfy. We know the one we migrate towards when we're going to be out in the elements. We know the one that we're migrating towards when we're going to be layering up because we're going to be cold. And we want people to migrate towards the t-shirt that you did with your logo on it.
Mm-hmm.
We want people to do that. And so we want to help make sure that you don't give a t-shirt out that's just going to end up in a drawer and never worn because it doesn't fit the audience. Is it going to be perfect? Is it going to be like everybody's going to have their favorite? No. My guess is Lori and I have a very similar favorites, but everybody's going to be a little bit different. But we can help make some educated choices based on kind of the stuff Lori's talked about, the weight, the material, the blends, the performance, all of those different factors. But then we also get into styles of t-shirts, which, so we've already talked about all the different fabrics and all the different things. There's also so many different styles.
There really is. And I would say also in the last, decade or two, we've had this infusion, thankfully, of ladies' pieces, right? So you've got adult tees, ladies' tees, youth tees, and then you have necks. So this is a V-neck, or maybe this one's a little bit easier to see. You've got a V-neck tee. You have a scoop neck tee. You have a fitted tee. So ladies style here and more of a fitted style versus a ladies style that is a little more relaxed. Graphic depending sometimes, you're also going to have a tubular tee, so
Oh,
no
yeah.
side seams. And these will tend to be the less expensive tees because of the way that they're produced. So no side seams on that tee versus a t-shirt that does have side seams. So pros and cons there, right? So if I have a graphic that I want to do that is maybe a long stretching graphic that wants to start on the side or a hip of a shirt and then it wants to go up. Not having that side seam for that graphic can be a great marrying of those two elements. However, when you don't have a side seam, you can often have some shift in that fabric when it's washing. Side seam's a little bit more expensive because of the way it's produced. Obviously, they have to add that side seam when the sewing process, but it is going to hold its shape a little bit better. But again, going back to when we were talking about weights, just because something's lightweight and it's tubular and it's less expensive, it could still be a super soft, wonderful piece.
Yeah.
It still can be, nice and quality. And then the other thing too, I was going to point out is this is a tri-bund tee. So oftentimes those vintage kind of prints or decorations. So this texture kind of lends itself well and kind of having that faded effect to it. Maybe you do really a light hit of ink on here, or your artwork is a little bit textured so that it tends to look
Mm-hmm.
vintage too. So it looks like,
Mm-hmm.
these I feel like can really make it to the top of the stack of my t-shirts
Yeah.
because they are really soft with the tri-blend fabric. And oftentimes they are kind of those classic prints that go back to, the genre of maybe music we listened to back when we were younger and those kinds of things. Where can we go from here? So Fits, we talked about ladies and adding ladies to it, but there is definitely a difference between a slimmer fit and a not so slim fit. So we talk about that in juniors or a ladies versus a women's. You've got unisex. You have long sleeves. You've got short sleeves. You've got tank tops. And traditionally, I would say that the majority of t shirts that come in the wide assortment of silhouettes and your wide assortment of color are going to be those blends, those 50-50 blends, the 60-40 blend, your mid-weight, like 5.5 ounce to 6 ounce. Those are going to give you your most silhouettes and also color, and then really kind of that 100% polyester. But right there, I've given you a list of several, 4 or 5 different options of shirts, and then plus all 4 or 5 of those different kind of makeups of shirts have lots of brands around that. So it quickly evolves into lots of options with
Yep.
color and silhouettes to meet your needs. Maybe you're doing an event where you've got youth ladies, you've got runners, you've got people who are helping on the sidelines. And so you need
Mhm.
a grouping of kind of all those things together. And you can do that. You can do that, and your staff can help navigate kind of through what the best options are for that.
I mean, we for sure have clients that the limiting factor for them is they need tall sizes. Again, that's those very common 5.5, 6 ounce style t-shirts. Also, up to 5 and 6X.
Well, we
That
have those
is
options too.
yes. And so that immediately, when we know that it needs to go up to that size, that starts to take the choices and narrow it down really quickly. So then we know we need to be able to find a t-shirt that can be done in a 6XL tall. And that alone helps us narrow it down to the best options. But sometimes we need to know the size because some of those more fashion tees don't go up past a 3, maybe 4X,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of them don't come in at all.
Hmm.
And so when you're thinking about shirts, if you want that, it's important to know early on so that we're only looking at the options within those size ranges. Or if you know that you need youth t-shirts, we have an event for a client that they always have to have youth t-shirts. So we need to find, it's a running event, walking event. We have to find a shirt that's in the colors that they want, that's kind of techy, that comes in adult and youth in the same color.
Hmm.
And that alone eliminates a lot of things that we just talked about because there's just a more limited choice that have youth and adult tech. But those are things we need to know in advance so that we can help find the right option for whatever the needs are.
Absolutely. There's a lot to navigate. And it
Yeah.
seems so simple. I'm just going to go order some t shirts.
Oh,
And then your first phone call is all of these questions. And this is the really why all those questions are being asked up front is
right.
so they can point you in the direction of the best solution for your particular project and all those details in mind. We haven't
Oh yeah,
even.
I always feel bad when I have all these questions when someone's like, I just want to get some navy blue t-shirts. And I'm like, I won't be doing my job if I just send you my favorite navy blue t-shirt. I mean, I have to ask questions because I want this to be the most rockin' awesome. Yeah, love this t-shirt. And that comes with a little bit of fact finding in advance so that now you know with all of the different options here, I can send you the coolest, best navy blue t-shirt because I will say there are, I might even say thousands, but at least for sure hundreds of navy blue t-shirts.
Yes.
Different brands, different weights, different performance, you name it. And it's what differentiates us sometimes with online options, you have to figure all that out, whereas we're here to help sift through all of the choices to get you the right answer instead of just picking a navy blue t-shirt online and then getting it and realizing, oh my gosh, this is super heavy and this is for a group that's traveling to Florida for a fishing tournament and it's this heavy cotton. that you might not have known. We know that information. Well, Lori, so incredibly helpful. Is there anything else you would like to add that we missed talking about?
Think we covered all of the points except for decoration, which we'll save for another episode.
Yes.
But yes, decoration and where you're going to put that logo and what your artwork looks like, and then ultimately what kind of technique you choose in putting on that decoration, all also goes into the decision making process of which shirt you're going to decide to use.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been so helpful. We will talk about decoration at a later date because that's a whole nother can of worms, so to speak. T-shirts, we know they're something that is a necessity. And we were just trying to demystify some of the features and benefits of t-shirts, but we can help you find the t-shirt that makes it to the top of the stacks of people's t-shirts when they've got dozens of them, that your brand is the one that they pick to wear over and over and over again, and it's not going to fall apart over and over and over again from being worn and washed and dried. So thank you so much, Lori, for your time.
Yeah, thank you
Until
for
next
having me.
time.